Hello, beautiful family. You don't often see me here. I'm at my home, in my office actually, and I've just finished my yoga for this evening, something I really can't live without these days. And I thought I best give you all an update on my health. Now, the human body that my soul belongs to has had some troubles over the last years, as many of you know. And if you don't know, I'll fill that in. But I discovered that I have babesiosis again. Not that I was reinfected, but that the first infection never went. And this is a parasite. It's a cousin of malaria that lives in your red blood cells. And I'm currently treating that now, and I wanted to share this with you all and tell you what's going on. And I hope that in this open and honest discussion about my health, that I can also find a way to show the power of our beautiful and wonderful will of unconditioned love that is in our lives. So for those of you who don't know, my body, in brief, took a very big hit going to Africa. I wasn't used to it. I was also intellectually not ready to protect myself from this environment, having grown up in the West. And I had malaria 3 times. It's quite common, a lot of people do get it. But I had it 3 times in a short space of time. I had typhoid and amoebiasis, a parasite in my gut. And then I was infected by a tick bite with Lyme disease and babesiosis. And I should put on there that the greatest infection that got me is my pride, because my body was strong and it moved into fight or flight because of my pride. Whilst I was serving in Tanzania and expressing this amazing fuel of unconditioned love that I'd gone into in this state of consciousness. You know, non-duality is seeing the world through the loving eyes of God through your body. This is what the awakened state is. And in there I was able, with that fuel inside me of unconditioned love, take in all these children, and it didn't affect me. It wasn't a stress or a strain because I had a connection to that love and I trusted fully God. But I stopped making time to keep that connection. And bit by bit, I started leaning on my own understanding. And it's prideful. I am then taking responsibility for these children as a ever-shrinking, separate mental identity that I'm constructing inside of me. Meaning I'm thinking, I've got to do this, or they won't have that, or I must do this, or how else are we going to pay the bills? And pushing and pushing, instead of resting on God's promise and walking by faith. I was walking by sight. And walking in faith, you have a state in the intense world I was living in the intense responsibilities I was facing. You have a state of joy and peace. Walking by sight in that situation with all of the stress, anxieties, etc., you move into fight or flight. And fight or flight is catastrophic for your health and for your immune system. And so the final straw that got me was Babesia and Lyme disease. And I wound up in bed for 2 years. And this was a very intense period of my life, of course. Now, I haven't spoken about it because I was getting a feeling, in a sense, that I didn't want people to be speaking, John is sick. I'm healing, I'm recovering from what went on. And so I didn't want people sending this energy to my body that I'm unwell. And I also needed to break the narrative that I was building up inside me that I was unwell, which took some time and some inner work. And so my body is still recovering from this. And this, I hope I can use as a testimony to this state of consciousness, because I have stayed in my recovery now. I have, for all my struggles with my health, I'm in a state of absolute joy and contentment. And it's not a straightforward issue I have, and I think this might surprise some of you to hear, but for example, when I have to travel to Africa and I stop at Amsterdam airport, I have to get wheelchair assistance if the gate is too far from where I land on the exchange. And that is because if I was going too far, my body was crashing. Effectively, my energy was not there, my mitochondria were a problem. And so I was unable to cover long distances walking, certainly couldn't exercise normally, and this is why yoga is so important for me. And this has been a slow recovery, and of course I've kept that private, and I feel I had to. I didn't want to as such, but I felt I had to for my healing. I had to come away from this story that John is sick, that this human being in this body, where this voice comes from that you listen to, is sick. I was needing to get back to that true state of awakened consciousness and see the world through the loving eyes of God, including my sickness, including my body, and including the frustration around that. And that gives us the progress that we need. Now, of course, as well, you have all seen that I have had these mystical experiences that I don't claim any ownership of understanding, but they did correlate. For instance, I was visited by what I deem to be angelic beings. They are deeply loving and supported us in doing what we did for the children in Tanzania. I've seen them before. And as you know, they prodded me here, and I felt a pain in my liver, didn't know what it was, and 6-7 weeks later, I pass a load of gallstones naturally, like a lot, like more than 100, which possibly came from the medication I had to take when I was recovering, and had the most intense period when I was stuck in bed. I prayed a lot and I needed antibiotics, and I don't demonize them because I've seen them save lives. I know I'm taking very strong herbal protocol at the moment. There's a lot of natural remedies available, but at that point they were needed. And that obviously leaves after effects on your body to recover from as well, including damage to the gallbladder, because I had a line from my arm to my heart. And so praise God for all of these discoveries of man that we have found, and right now I am having to use for the first time an extremely strong anti-malarial to beat Babesia, because the other natural remedies haven't worked yet, and it's been a long journey with this. And so I'm using them, and I already feel some layers coming away, mental clarity and energy returning. And so I'm eternally grateful that it was discovered that it's there, and I was alerted actually multiple times. The final thing that happened in meditation, I had a vision state, and I wasn't in my body, and I was here, and I could see me meditating here, which is where I was meditating, and there's a glass door here in front of me. And in the vision, I saw this huge box at the glass door, and the box was the medication that I'm now taking. But this was like weeks ago, before I started taking this medication. This is what I was shown in a vision state, and I said, okay, then something's going on, and this is what it was. They had been breeding, and they live in your red blood cells, so it gets to a point where you can't deal with it, with your immune system can't deal with it anymore, and you feel the fatigue coming in, etc. So I hope this will be the last hurdle, because I'll treat it for long here to try and eradicate it from my red blood cells as much as possible, meaning not to get into the science. But anyway, I am therefore explaining to you all that I'm currently, as the human being talking to you, the body side of me, the physical, is dealing with one of these parasitic life forms that inhabit this world with us. And by the grace of God, I have been led to where I am with my treatment, and I will be getting better, no doubt. You know, in among all of this as well, I want to say that a lot of you guys who are watching will know there was a point where I was extremely sick. There was a line in my arm, and the doctors who put it in didn't really take much note of what was going on, for all they had good intentions, undoubtedly. And it got infected with antibiotic resistant E. coli, and I got very, very sick from this. And every time an IV went into my body, more of this bacteria from the infected line was getting pumped in, and I'd have fever, and it was awful time, and I was very sick, and we had no way to get out of Tanzania. And many of you donated to a fundraiser which got me not only out of Tanzania, but it got me the treatment in Germany of aphoresis by a specialist who took my blood out. And when they took my blood out and cleaned it, there was 20 times the toxic level of cobalt. How these substances got into my body is still a bit of an open mystery. I have theories. The doctor has more nefarious theories. Arsenic was in my bloodstream, copper. So had that gone on without that treatment, I don't think I could have detoxed that out of me. I really don't, because I tried all kinds of chelation and fasting, and this was a lot inside me. So thankfully, modern tech, again, in that sense, really pulled me out of a tight spot, fueled on a foundation of love from you guys who helped us with that. And so many, I feel, owe you guys so much for that. This amazing family that God tasked me with starting was reliant on my recovery in some elements, and so many. I'm grateful. My family would struggle without me there, and I'm grateful for that. I want you to be aware of how important that was. And so this health journey, I feel I should have communicated sooner what's going on, but it's been a personal recovery I've been on at the moment, and so it's not so easy to tell people these things out and open while you're trying to do that. But here we are. I have one last hurdle, I think, of Babesia, and hopefully I will be back to running and enjoying my body like I used to. That was all. A bit more of a personal, grounded video than normal centered state of consciousness, not moving off to the detached mystical where I normally speak from, but this is also who I am. I love you all. God bless, guys. Bye.